Hey folks, it's Keith, Victor Echo 3 Sierra Victor Quebec, also known as the Shaky Key. Today I would like to get into part 3 of the 3-part series I was doing on how to make your very first Morse code or CW contact. So obviously this series is aimed at the very new operators, the ones who have been studying either on their own or with one of the many organizations or clubs out there. And it just gives you a few ideas how you can go about it. Not everybody will have a club or an organization which will guide them to it and sort of set things up for them. So this series just gives you 3 options that you can look at and possibly do on your own. The first part looked at the SKCC, Straight Key Century Club, who are excellent with working with new operators. Part 2 looked at a new website that is out there that you can use to try and make certainly your first contact and your second, third, fourth, and so on going forward, which was CWQSO Finder. That's a new site. And today we're going to look at the last one, which is Parks on the Air, or Pota, P-O-T-A. So for many of the operators out there, there's a lot have not heard of what Pota is all about. And of course, there's a huge following who are out there, doing single sideband, FT8, and so on. So they know the basic procedure, but there's lots of others that don't. And some of what you do, if you're a Morse code operator, a new one, when you decide to do something with a park, and in this case, I would say, don't make your first contact and activation. Do it as a hunter. Much less stressful and probably more fun for a while. So let's take a look at using Parks on the Air for your first contact. Now, I think when I talk to students and just feedback I get from people, there's a huge number that use Pota for their very first few contacts, and certainly for their first one. There's lots of reasons for it. Number one, it's a very, very easy script, almost too easy, because if that's all you're doing for the first, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 calls, you sort of get into the sequence that they use, and not necessarily the same when you're on other sites and working with other organizations, clubs, and so on. But it is a very easy script when you start off. It's hard to make a mistake. So when you look at it, very easy. The other big advantage to it, very quick confirmation. So if you've gone in, you've contacted someone in a park, go in and check on the Parks on the Air site and see if you've got a confirmation. So it's very fast. So in that way, it's very, very rewarding. Now, on the other side of that, if you're not the greatest when you send your call sign, you may find you're not getting that confirmation. So it's a little clue that maybe there's something wrong with the way you're sending. But it is a good one to use. Like I say, for a lot of people use it. A lot of people have great success using that for their first contact. Now, where do you go? Well, you go to what we call the Pota app, spelled P-O-T-A .app. That's the site that is used, and I'll show you that in a few minutes. It's free to join, free to register, and it's not bad. It can be a lot of fun. Now, obviously, a lot of you probably know of the site if you've been doing single sideband, FT8, and whatever. So, you don't need me to tell you how to find it or how to register. But for those that don't, and there's a lot of people don't know about Parks on the Air or how it works, it's, get into that first page. Look at the script. Down the left-hand side, there's all sorts of information there. And look at the script. Make yourself a cheat sheet. Because in the beginning, when nerves take over and everything else, and adrenaline and what have you, it's nice to have that cheat sheet in front of you. All right, so it makes it a little bit easier. Will help to slow you down. So like I say, lots of advantages. Easy script, quick confirmation. And of course, there's a lot of parks, awful lot of parks, especially if you're looking on a weekend as an example. Now, there are also some disadvantages for using Parks on the Air for your first contact. Number one, it's very impersonal. The operator on the other end couldn't care less if this was your very first contact, and you're not going to tell him because he doesn't want to go through a big long exchange with you. He wants the basic information and he's on to the next person. So for you, it's a good feeling, but other than you, no one really knows. All right. Number two, it's not like most QSOs. And again, that's because it's so impersonal and people want the contact. The guy who's activating a park and is out in the field, he's not looking for a conversation. He's not looking for anything other than the basic script because he's got to get contacts, right? He has to get a minimum of 10. Many of them are shooting for much higher numbers than that. Another disadvantage, in most cases, there's competition. So if you use either of the other two sites I mentioned, the SKCC or the CW QSO Hunter, you can set it up with the other person. So when you're calling or they're calling you, whichever way you want to do it, you've got their full attention. When you're calling someone in a park, there could be a pilot, there could be one other operator, could be 30 other operators. You have no idea. So, it's a little more difficult to get through, especially if you are sending very slow. A lot of people who learn on their own are less than 10 words per minute. You're sending very slow, the operator may just ignore you and go for some of the faster ones because, again, they're looking for quick contacts. The other thing you have to make sure you do if you're doing a park, because they have no clue that you're going to call them, make sure you can send your call sign perfectly. I'm not saying send your call sign pretty good. I'm saying send your call sign perfectly. Most operators in parks, the activators who are in parks, they don't have the best antenna set up. They may have all sorts of noise, atmospheric issues. You have no idea. So they're listening for call signs, and they need you to make it perfect. They need to be able to pull your call sign out without any problem. Otherwise, if you're not sending it right, or if it's difficult for them to copy, you're going to start getting a lot of question marks. Now in Canada, we tend to get question marks because our call signs start, for the most part, with a V, V-E-V-A. A lot of operators in parks aren't expecting a V. They're expecting an American call sign, right? Starting with K-N-W-A, that type of thing. So we quite often get V question mark. And if they don't get all of your call sign, and you have to be ready for this if you're doing this for the first time, they might only get part of your call sign. So they could say, in my case, VE3 question mark. So you have to be ready to repeat your call. You have to recognize that he's only sending part of your call. So there's two things you have to really work on: recognizing your call, and not just at the speed you send it at, all right, at the speed they might come back to you at. So learn to recognize your call sign, learn to send your call sign, and practice it a lot. Record it on your cell phone over and over and over again. Could you copy that call sign, and so on. So it has to become almost automatic. So that's something that you really need to do. Now, again, when you do this and you go to the Pota page and I'll set it up, there are things to look at. You look at the speed and you'll see that in a minute. Operators are out there, they've been picked up by the RBN or the reverse beacon network. It's going to tell you how fast they are sending. I wouldn't go wasting too much time trying to call someone who's sending, 20, 23, 30 words a minute. Look for the slower operators. Look for someone certainly under 16 words per minute. You may actually get an answer from them fairly quickly because they're used to some of the slower sending. But again, if you're calling an operator who, let's say, might be doing 19 words per minute and your top speed is 10, and you call them at 10, they may answer you, but they may come back at whatever speed they were doing. So if they were at 19 words per minute, there's a good possibility they're coming back at 19 words per minute. So you have to learn to recognize your call sign, recognize what they're doing, know the script, make sure you have a good copy in front of you so when they come back, you can very quickly follow what they're sending you. Listen for that BK, which means they're turning it back to you. Send, repeat the BK back, and then get your information out as quickly as possible, because that's what they want. They need to get your call sign done with, basically, and move on to the next person. So let's take a very quick look at the website. If you've never seen it before, this will be interesting. If you have seen it before, if you've used it, then you know what, or you should know what you're doing. And I'm going to show you in just a second. Here we go. All right, so once you're into the Pota site itself, make sure obviously that it's your mode up here and the left says CW. That's something that you're going to need. I also want you to look at the way it's set up. So on the extreme left, you've got the amount of time since that operator was last heard. So here's one. He was on the air talking to someone roughly 42 seconds ago. So they're a good one to look at. You have the person's call sign. You have the frequency they're on, the fact that they're doing Morse code CW. You have the park. You have the state. And anything else at this point I wouldn't worry too much about, other than look at this one. So this one here, you're looking at the words per minute, 20 words per minute. So if you're brand new, I don't know if I would necessarily go with that one as my first choice. I might if there was nobody else that I could hear, but I'd probably like someone a little bit slower. So let's go a little bit further down, and here we have one KL7NL a minute ago, 14,031. So you can go in there. Now this is in North Carolina, so going to be probably reachable by the vast majority of you, unless you're way over on the West Coast. And then you look at, again, you look at the speed. Well, in this case, he's doing 19 words per minute. You may want to try and get a hold of him. I mean, it's a possibility. Again, still a little bit fast, but probably worth a try. But you will find too that during the week you tend to get faster operators. On the weekend you will also find some slower ones. Sometimes in the evening as well you may get some slower ones, especially on a weekend. So you've got the basic information you need. So 19 words per minute, call sign and so on. So what do? Well, you wait, find him, make sure you can hear him, make sure that it's clear enough for you to follow what he's doing, and listen. Don't just jump right in. Listen. Listen for a while. Copy his call sign down. Even though it says it there, make sure you're actually listening to the guy you think you're listening to. Sometimes in parks, there will be people, on the same frequency, even though they're in different parks and they don't even know the other person's on. Listen to them send their call sign. Listen to what they send, because you need to get your ear tuned to what they're doing and how they're sending it. How well can you copy them? If it's just a blur to you, that may not be the best operator for you to try and get a contact with. Look for somebody maybe a little bit slower. And even on this page, as you go down the page, there's one at 18. There's another one at 18. And we can keep on going down. There's a 19. So 19, 20, there's a 14 right down here. So this one down here, he's on 14,060.9. He's 14 words per minute. So there's a good one for you to try and make your first contact with. All right, so stop and think, listen to them, write down what they're sending, even though they're going to send to you almost always. It's very rare you're not going to get anything different other than 599. Right? 5NN is usually what they're going to send. So that's what's going to come. You can listen for it. You can tune your ear for it. So it's not bad. Underneath that, there's another one, 19 words per minute, and so on. Pick the one you want to send to. Dial them up. Get your script ready. Make sure you can contact them. You can understand what they're sending. It doesn't have to be 100% copy. When they're finished talking to someone, or if they send a CQ, very often once they wrap up with one person, they'll simply go call CQ. In some cases, of course, when they wrap up with someone else will jump right in. So I know when I started, I simply listened. I didn't send anything right away. If there were people calling one after another, I would, either move on or wait. And I'd wait for a CQ, and then I would send my call sign. So that's the type of thing, I mean, you learn that. That's just a matter of practice and so on. But that's how you use the page. There's another 18. Like I say, today's a Friday. There's a lot of fairly fast people, even though it is a bit of a holiday for many people, the fairly fast people in there. But that's all you got to do. It's an easy way to set it up. It's an easy way if you have your script ready to try and get a few contacts in. Now, for me, the one thing that I really appreciated Pota for was after I made my first contact. Now, that was on, like I said, the SKCC. I got, probably 4 or 5 out of the way there, and sort of was beginning to say, okay, I can do this, because initially it's like, oh my God, I can't do this. Oh, it's so hard, it's so difficult. And then once you've done it a few times, you start to think to yourself, I really can do this. So what I found Pota was good for, once I had my first 2 or 3 contacts out of the way, I could sit there and do Pota, especially on a weekend, rack up contacts through Pota. And of course, get that confirmation the next morning, right? Go in, look at my hunter's log and see if someone had confirmed the contact. So that was very rewarding. That was actually a lot of fun. And I think after I got my first few contacts on there, I probably did over the next, I'm going to say week to 10 days, I probably contacted 35 parks or so, somewhere in that range. And it helped to settle me down. It helped to get rid of the nerves, because I knew now if I sent my call sign, I was sending good enough that the other person could copy. And they were obviously getting my information as well. They would get, where was I? Right, Ontario, right? Oscar November. So everything was sorting out, and it just sort of settles you down a little bit. And you realize, one, Morse code is fun, right? Sending in Morse code and hearing someone come back to you in Morse code is a lot of fun. So I would say, if you don't use Pota for your first contact, I would use it for a lot of other ones after that, because the more you do it, the more you listen to them come back to you. And like I said, a lot of them are not coming back at the same speed as you. They may come back a bit faster. That helps to stretch your ability a little bit. If all you hear is people slower or the same speed, you sort of get in a rut. But when you're listening to people, maybe you're at 12, they're at 15, you'll find out pretty fast that you can actually copy them. So it doesn't hurt to look a little bit faster than what you would normally copy or send. And I think in that way, Pota was very rewarding. And again, like I said, almost instant verification. In a lot of cases, people are actually posting what the people they spoke to and so on, same day. So you can even get confirmation the very same day. So I would suggest it's an option you look at. If you don't make it your first option, definitely make it a follow-up option. So that's it for me. I think hopefully you got something out of this 3-part series. I think it will help the brand new people, the ones who want to get on the air for the first time. And you can use any one of these methods. They're all valid. They're all good ones. They will all get you that first contact. So again, if you're new and you're trying to figure out how you want to do this, I hope the series helps you. And I hope you have a lot of fun. And I hope down the road, who knows, maybe even I'll get to contact you. And if you're looking for someone to contact for your very first time, hey, if I can reach you and you can reach me, I'm more than happy to do it. Send me an email and we'll work something out. But in the meantime, folks, have fun. Get out there. Get on the air. Enjoy yourself. It's Keith, Victor Echo 3, Sierra Victor, Quebec, otherwise known as the Shaky Key. Wishing you a great day. Happy hunting. Enjoy your journey. 73.